I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting, the town of Saugeen Shores, and the first order of business, again, is a declaration of pecuniary interest. I'll remind you of your responsibility. The next is additions, deletions, or amendments. We have nothing under that. The next item then is adoption of minutes for the regular council meeting of June the 25th, and it's a motion moved by Councillor Mike Myatt and seconded by Councillor Madison that the council adopt the minutes of the council meeting of June 25th, 2018 as presented. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? It's carried. So the next is Committee of the Whole minutes, and it's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber and seconded by Councillor Minaj. The council note and file the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of June 25th, 2018 as presented. Any comments, errors? All in favor? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is the general government report on June the 25th, a report of the Committee of the Whole, and it's been moved by Councillor Dave Myatt and seconded by Councillor Grace. The Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the general government report dated June 25th, 2018, recommending the following: that the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores accepts the 2017 annual audited financial statements as presented by Mike Bolton of BDO. 2, that the transfers to and from reserves and reserve funds for the specific purposes outlined in the tables attached to the Director of Corporate Services report dated June 25th, 2018 be approved for the 2017 year end, and that the unfunded portion of the Harbour Wall project in the amount of $115,968.89 be funded from the future capital reserve. The Council approves that $39,000 be spent on the Town of Saugeen Shores website refresh, allocating $13,000 from the Building Department Reserve and $5,000 from the Emergency Planning Reserve. Comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. So then the next item on the agenda is awarding consulting services for the Transportation Master Plan. And it's been moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau that Paradigm Transportation Solutions Limited and GPS Group Incorporated be awarded the contract for consulting services to prepare the Town of Saugeen Shores Transportation Master Plan, RFP number 2018-6300-5410-1 in the amount of $114,000 plus applicable HST, to be funded from the development charges as per the development charges background study, and the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign the necessary documents. Questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. The next item is award the reconstruction of Chantry View. I need a seconder on this. No. So it's been moved by Councillor Madison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, that Doug Welsh Construction Limited be awarded the contract for the reconstruction of Chantry View Drive, tender number 2018-63-20-57-20 in the amount of $229,057 plus and 4 cents plus applicable HST, to be funded out of the gas tax and OCFA funding, and that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to send the necessary tender documents. Questions, comments? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be voting against this. I guess it's no surprise, but I want to reiterate some of my earlier points. We're being asked to authorize an extra $90,000 for this, to complete this reconstruction. When I spoke about this before, I asked that we defer this project in light of our now approved transportation master plan. Let's look at the reasons why this is being done. One, we've been told that there are safety issues on this street. We've been told this is a main conduit to the beach, which also joins to our boardwalk, and that a lot of people walk on this beach, on this street. And that it is directly connected to Huron Street. One of the points that was made when the original project was suggested back in 2016 was the condition of the asphalt. The condition of the asphalt at that time in 2016 was rated 90 out of 100. There was some recent construction on that road, but that has been patched now smoothly. I was down there today just looking to make sure. Compare that with Lake Street and the recent repaving of Lake Street, which was a good idea. At that point, before the paving, the condition of the composite was 30 out of 100, and that was a good idea to do that. What I'm saying is the condition of the asphalt doesn't warrant an urgent reconstruction of this road at this point. As I said before, when this topic was originally presented to us for approval, to me it makes sense for us to complete the transportation master plan, to look at this street holistically in terms of how it fits in with the neighborhood, and to see, who knows, we may come up with different suggestions that provide more safety, that answer the needs and expectations of all people who have concerns on this street. It may end up being able to be achieved even more inexpensively and effectively. But to be paying $90,000 more to complete this is not something I can support. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and certainly appreciate the councillor's comments as well as the comments of the members of the public. One important piece of information for context that's important to remember is part of the reason we're paying the extra $90,000 in 2018 is because we deferred the project from 2017 to make time for the public consultation, which we did, pretty extensive public consultation. In fact, probably a level of public consultation on a roads project, the likes of which I haven't seen in my time on council, and probably, it's pretty unprecedented, really. So that's part of why we're here. So it's it's difficult to, on one hand, hold the project to the standard we set when the 2017 budget almost 2 years ago, when we were last discussing that, to say that should come at that price given the costs, particularly the inflation of road construction price costs in the last 12 months and before that as well. So I think that there is some justification for the price increase in that, and there's also some the important context of saying, we have consulted heavily on this, went back to the public, that those public consultations resulted in some changes to or at least us to have the opportunity to review some changes for this project, and ultimately council arriving back at this place and sending it for tender. So I will support the project proceeding at this stage, and I think ultimately it's going to result in the completion of something which seems to me, at least, being, not having been around at the time when the sidewalks were completed both to the east and west of this property, of this particular street. So I'm not sure what the council discussions were at that time, but it seems to me clear standing there that there was an intent to have sidewalk continue between these two locations, to get from east to west on Chantreview on sidewalk. They've done both they've done sidewalk on both ends of the street. So I think it completes something that I see as having been the vision of Southampton Council at the time when those projects were done. So I think it's good to see that completed, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing the project completed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I think the $90,000, part of the increase in the cost was to accommodate some of the concerns that were raised by the residents during that consultation process. So I think we may not even be here if we didn't have those additional $90,000 that was approved in the budget, and you'd have gone ahead with it. But in any case, I think if there's no further questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
I think that Councillor Grace was asking for consideration to defer if the master transportation plan was to complete it and get in between when this project would be would be ready to go. Is there any opportunity for that, Amanda, to think that the transportation plan could be completed before the spring and either support the need to do this or refute it and say, no, you really shouldn't be doing it? I have a couple of comments, but that's a question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the Transportation Master Plan is to be completed in 2020. That was when it'll be come back to Council for approval.
Okay, fair enough then. So my comment, Mr. Mayor, is that some things that the general population doesn't always understand is we heard it tonight too, is the town's legal duty of care, and I emphasize that Amanda and us are responsible for making things safe, and I'm not buying the answer that curbs and sidewalks increase the speed of traffic. I don't have that study in front of me or sufficient studies in front of me that support that. What I do have is a reference piece, which is Geddes Street in Port Elgin. And by the way, they're not here. Many of them are not here, but they kind of intimated that Southampton has the only seasonal summer residential areas. This is not true in the community, of course. The commercial nature of Port Elgin being what it is, it's down in the waterfront. It's very similar to what Southampton's waterfront is. And Geddes Street was very much a part of that. And the people there were at these meetings saying, no, please don't do it for the very same reasons. After it was completed, they said almost to a person, thank you. We now realize how much more improved our life is there, how safer it is, and it has a better feel to it. So that would be a comment, and my final comment would be, in the bigger scheme of things, we have a waterfront master plan, and we need to connect these things. Sometimes we need to work harder at connecting these things, in my opinion. And destination number 8 is actually written here as Long Dock Beach, sorry, Diane, and Chantry Dunes and Chantry View Beach. And the idea simply is that we want to invite the larger population to attend our beaches, to enjoy what we have, to offer it as a tourism destination. And so we are definitely going to increase traffic in some of these more current sleepier summer residential areas. They're not going to stay that way. And so, in my opinion, it still remains to be the right thing to do is get to that urban standard that provides good flow for transport and for safety. And for those reasons, if we can't defer, because the master plan isn't going to be done until 2020, then I would have to say I will support it. Thank you.
Any further questions? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Carried. So back to the agenda then. The next item on the agenda are bylaws, and the first one is the Heritage Register third and final reading, and it's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, seconded by Councillor Mike Myatt, that bylaw 55-2018, being a bylaw to establish a municipal heritage register for the town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a third and final time and passed and sealed this 9th day of July 2018. So I then have an amendment to that motion, and it's been moved by Councillor Grace and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, that Schedule A of Bylaw 55-2018 be amended to include the following property: 6 Huron Street, Southampton. So we'll take any discussion on the amendment first. Councillor Grace. We'll vote on the amendment first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to state again what I stated last meeting when we discussed this issue, just to clarify that placing a property on the Heritage Register is not designation. It allows for the town to have a 60-day window, and for the public to have a 60-day window to determine whether to pursue heritage designation. But it also, it does not preclude owners from having any kind of changes, renovations, additions to their property. Let me tell you about a conversation I had with a friend last night when we were talking about this issue. He was saying that there was an old historic cottage on the riverfront in Southampton, and that this cottage ended up being demolished and a new home was put up. And he said, if we had known that that cottage was in danger, we would have paid to have it moved to property that we own elsewhere, and we would have saved it because we think it's worth saving. What putting a property on the Heritage Register does, because we've seen that there's a significant amount of public interest in this property, 6 Huron, is that it gives the town, and it also gives the public, the time to properly explore the options that are available to us, and to see if there is sufficient interest in preserving this property, and if it merits preservation. I think we've already received information from the public that I think is persuasive in showing that this is a really important heritage property, but just putting it on the register does not designate it. All it does is to give us that 60-day breathing period to allow us to consider all the options. Thank you.
Councilor Minaj.
Sorry, Cheryl. So all of that is true, and obviously the 60 days will elapse. And if we do this, if I'm the owner, we have a letter from the owner saying that she does not want us to do this. It has been the decided practice of the committee to respect owners' wants up until this very point in time, to my knowledge, where clearly Diane, as chair, has made us all well aware that we don't need permission to put places on lists, registry lists. We don't need permission to designate either, not to start the process. And believe me, that process is going to be relatively onerous on us, and we're going to have our work cut out for us if the owner applies for demolition permit tomorrow, if in fact we go through with any change to adding it, when she's clearly asked for it not to be. The public has done a fair amount of due diligence, and my understanding from working with our committee, members of the committee are telling me, and I understand more now after 2 years of service, that there are tens and hundreds of homes in our community, both in Port Elgin, the old town of Port Elgin, in the old town of Southampton, in the former township of Saugeen, that are leap years more heritage substantial than this particular property. So precedence is a tough word, but if we go down this slippery slope on this property that I do not believe has that ultimate worthiness that many of the others do, we as a committee, a heritage committee, have got a lot more work to do, and we need this council to support the heritage committee in saying, you better really get in front of this, not react to it from behind, which I feel like we're doing now. So I agree that Cheryl's completely correct. Who is this benefactor who's going to come and say they'll buy it and take it away and preserve it? Ultimately, it says the town can buy it. Are we going to do that? Are we thinking that that's somewhere where we want to be in the future with this property or other properties? And so when I add it all up, I really believe that the process that the committee has been using and brings it to council, if council wishes to say to the committee, no, we want to take another route, then then we will understand that. But the committee has lots more work to do when it comes to moving it from a list to a designation. And hopefully council will support that extra work as well. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Mike Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I won't be supporting that amendment. I think looking back to the minutes of the June 13th Heritage Committee, and I quote the motion, that the committee proceed to present Phase 3 of the Heritage Register to Council with 14 properties identified on the list as approved by the committee today. 6 Huron was not on that list, Mr. Mayor. I spoke with a member of the committee today, and I just want to quote a couple of statements. The committee voted unanimously to exclude. A couple of the good comments I found from a committee, that support of property owners is an important part of having their properties identified and recognized as such. They all should be very proud and anxious participants in the program. I think that's an important point. They should be proud and anxious participants to be placed on that Heritage Register. If not, there's little value in including them. I tried to reach out to Mrs. Scholz today. I wasn't able to reach her, but I was looking at the letter that she wrote. She has asked to be excluded from the registry. And I guess I like to have see a little consistency with council in terms of, I understood when a individual asked to be not to be put onto the registry, or put on the registry. I've been in several discussions around this table to that effect. So I think we're being very consistent with not putting it on the registry. Mrs. Scholz said, I will let the property sit untouched while you decide what to do. As you know, there is little value to me or the market should it become heritage designated. So what she's in a really awkward position right now. She thinks she'd be kind of darned if she do, darned if she doesn't. And in terms of getting a demolition permit and trying to build in the community, it's going to be very, very difficult. Councilman Minaj sent out some information today. He talked about 6 key steps to designating an individual property under Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, and one identifying the property, researching, evaluating. But the 6th one is listing on the provincial register. That's the process. Once you're on that heritage registry, guess what? The next step could be, and I know Councillor Grace has covered this up, not necessarily, but being on that heritage registry, what it leads to is to be listed on the provincial register as a heritage building. That would be the next step. There's consultant fees. There's all kinds of costs associated with designating a property as a heritage building. If we're not intending to do that, if we're not intending to protect that long term, why is it being put on the registry? There was another comment I just wanted to read to you from the heritage minutes, and it says, the chair asked the committee for their comments regarding the property at 6 Huron Street, and there's a comment about derogatory comments, etc., etc. But there's a comment of there are approximately 10 other buildings in Southampton with similar architectural features to the building at 6 Huron, and of historic significance to Southampton that the committee focus on. So I won't be supporting the amendment. I'm not sure it's the right thing to do, and I just think all of these things add up to, let's be consistent. We have a letter on file from an individual who wants to invest probably big time in this community, and is asked to not be put on the register. And I think we need consistency.
Thank you. Any further comments? Then we'll vote on the amendment, and I'll read the amendment again so everybody's clear on it. It's been moved that schedule by Councillor Grace and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau that Schedule A of Bylaw 55-2018 be amended to include the following property: 6 Huron Street South. I'm going to call the question. All in favour? Opposed? That's defeated. So then we'll go back to the main motion then, and I'll read that again. It's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber and seconded by Councillor Myatt that bylaw 55-2018, being a bylaw to establish a municipal heritage register for the town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby a third and final time and passed and sealed this 9th day of July 2018. All in favor of that? Opposed? That's carried. So we'll move on to the next item then is it's a bylaw to amend the parking bylaw. And it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, seconded by Councillor Rich, that bylaw 59-2018, being a bylaw to amend parking bylaw 51-2013 to regulate parking, stopping, and standing of vehicles in the town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of July 2018. Questions, comments, the motion or bylaw? All in favor? That's carried. Next is to authorize a site plan with 251431 Ontario, and it's been moved by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Dave Mayette, that bylaw 60-2018, being a bylaw to authorize a site plan agreement with 2514312 Ontario Incorporated, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of July 2018. Any questions or comments to it? All in favor then? It's carried. The next item then is authorize a site plan for Homes on Huron Limited, and it's been moved by Councillor Mike Myatt, seconded by Councillor Madison, that bylaw 61-2018, being a bylaw to authorize a site plan agreement with Homes on Huron Limited, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of July 2018. Any questions or comments to it? All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. The next item then is authorizing a pre-service agreement with Barry's Construction Limited, and it's been moved by Councillor Madison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, that bylaw 62-2018, being a bylaw to authorize a pre-servicing agreement with Barry's Construction and Insulation Limited, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of July 2018. Any questions, comments? All in favor then? That's carried. And the next one is authorizing a pre-servicing agreement with Mystic Coves, and it's been moved by Councillor Rich, seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, that bylaw 63-2018, being a bylaw to authorize a pre-servicing agreement with Mystic Cove Development Incorporated, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of July 2018. Any questions or comments to this motion or bylaw? Then all in favor? It's carried. And the next item is a bylaw to authorize a deeming bylaw for Levine, and it's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, seconded by Councillor Minaj, that bylaw 64-2018, being a bylaw to deem Lot 3 on Plan 3M130, Town of Saugeen Shores, not to be a lot on a registered plan of subdivision, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of July 2018. Any questions? Councillor Minaj.
I live right across the street, and I walked that property with the owners just the other day, just as a reference point, just so that people aren't misled by the diagram, the drawing. That lane does not exist. So the people who live at 773 River Street, they own all the way back to the green line.
Thank you. Any further questions? All in favor? That's carried. The next item is a confirmatory bylaw, and it's been moved by Councillor Rich, seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, bylaw 65-2018, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of July 2018. All in favor? That's carried. It's been moved by Councillor Minaj and seconded by Councillor Madison that this regular council meeting of July the 9th, 2018 hereby adjourned at 9:33 p.m. All in favor? We're adjourned.